Unforeseen murders and plane crashes, the world of the unknown, and dinosaurs once thought dead alive. This video is sure to put you on an edge of wonderful discoveries. Stay till the end of this video to discover. How long can a murderer hold on to his claims of being innocent even when glaring shreds of evidence point to him as the killer? This is the story of Helen and her killer, the wood chipper murderer.
The wood chip killer. Hella Craft was your average American. Being from Denmark, she decided to move to the USA and called Connecticut home in 1979. She had worked as a flight attendant and enjoyed her job, and it's actually where she met her husband, Richard Craft, who had been working as a pilot at the time. But weirdly enough, he had another job. Despite bringing home almost $400,000 a year, adjusting for inflation, he worked part-time as a police officer, a job he seemingly preferred over being a pilot. So much in fact, he was known for working off the clock, showing up to calls he wasn't even asked to come by. Despite 2 jobs and a bountiful amount of wealth, Richard almost never touched his money. He wouldn't buy a single thing for Hella, and also would only buy basic necessities for the kids. And that's why Hella Craft was still working, to provide nearly every expense on her flight attendant salary. But she loved him, and she overlooked this hurdle. Despite Richard being physically abusive, when he was diagnosed with colon cancer with only a 2% chance to survive, Hella took care of him in his bedridden state. From the chemo and eventual surgery, he, with the help of Hella, overcame his odds of cancer, and the cancer went into remission. Through all this unconditional love that Hella had shown Richard, you would think he would show some back. But that was sadly not the case. He actually didn't love her at all, and claimed to only marry her because she had his child. With that, he had been cheating on her since the beginning of the marriage. After hiring a private investigator, Hella had learned the truth about Richard cheating, with photo evidence of him in multiple affairs. In the month of September in 1986, Hella decided she had enough, and met with a divorce attorney. A couple months later, on November 18th, she told her work friends about the divorce plans, and what she would do to stay afloat, along with other concerns of staying away from Richard afterwards, as she knew his rage would get the best of him. When she got home that night, she confronted Richard and discussed what would happen. And the next day, on the morning of the 19th, their kids remember being woke up because of a power outage, and Richard took them all to his sister's house. Weirdly, Hella didn't join them. Neither did she make it to work her next day, where her workmates got pretty suspicious after the talk that they just had. After 2 weeks of her being missing, and Richard not alerting the authorities, they investigated to find Hella. The investigation found that he bought a chainsaw and a freezer, but Richard would not admit to it. But it doesn't stop there, because investigators went on to find a receipt that tested that Richard had rented a U-Haul and a high-powered wood chipper. One today that would cost $700, a purchase someone wouldn't easily forget. At the scene of where someone saw Richard with the wood chipper, under some recently laid chips, investigators found bone fragments, clumps of hair, teeth, and a human thumb. The teeth were confirmed to be Hella's. And it turns out, the night that Hella confronted Richard, he went mad, beat her in the head with a metal flashlight, froze her body in his freezer, took her frozen body to the woods, cut her body into pieces with a chainsaw, and then threw those pieces into a wood chipper. Even though he claimed to be innocent, in January of 1990, he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. But it doesn't end there, because just last year, he was released from prison on good behavior, and now roams a free man. Nearly 85, never once confessed to his crime.
Sure, you've heard about mermaids and werewolves, Bigfoot and centaurs, but what do you know about Native American cryptids? Well, Wendigos are one of them, and people say if you are not eaten by one, you most likely turn to one.
Native American cryptids. The Wendigo. First witnessed by the Algonquian people, tribes such as the Wampanoag, Pequot, Cree, Ojibwa, and pretty much any tribe that touches these boundaries. The similarities in culture and language made it easier, not just for physical trade, but also the trade of stories. And though there were similarities, each people had their own suspicion on where this creature had came from. The Wendigo is thought to be of spiritual nature, but obviously holds a physical form, and its most common origin story comes from a once normal human being that was overcome with greed and hunger, that they resorted to eating people, in turn catching a sort of disease that would from then on make them have an insatiable desire to eat more human flesh. So something kind of like rabies, except for the physical depiction obviously, who's usually seen with antlers, but also sometimes depicted with a deer-like head, though your other senses will know what's coming before your eyes. As it said, they have the stench of rotting flesh. Pair that with the sudden chill you get, and you could be devouring a human in 3 to 4 business days. It's said that nobody's ever escaped the Wendigo as a target either, as this yearn for human is so strong, it never stops until it reaches you. But what it does when it reaches you has always been translated sort of differently. Since there's no such thing as an escape in this event, it's hard to convey the description through a witness. But as it was once a human, now overcome with one goal, and that goal was to eat more human flesh, it's suspected most of the time you're just eaten on the spot. But it's also said that its presence can invoke strong emotions in people, and not good ones either. In his presence being the irresistible urge to commit murder, namely referred to as Wendigo psychosis. That's not to say these people aren't also eating their victims though, because they are. But whether it turns you into a Wendigo as well, or just gives you the same primal urges is still up for debate. As of today, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual refers to this as a disease, and culture syndrome, with a combination of psychiatric and somatic symptoms, meaning it's not voluntary and it's not fake. But in most cases, you'll need to know of the Wendigo for it to hurt you in any meaningful manner. It's similar to the nature of the dancing plague in 1518 that killed up to 400 people. To know of it is to subject yourself to its desire. And I bet it's safe to say now, you know of the Wendigo.
What do you know about the Arkansas plane crash? Well, the assumed cause of the crash was a lightning strike, but we know so much better now.
Here's what we know about the Arkansas plane crash. If you're unaware, on Wednesday, February 22nd, a small plane carrying 5 environmental workers from CTEH crashed shortly after leaving the Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport. This plane, which was a twin-engine Beech B-2000, happened to be responding to an explosion that occurred at an Ohio metal plant, which killed 1 worker and hospitalized more than a dozen. The Pulaski County Sheriff's Office confirmed all workers on board the plane were killed. The plane's destination was the John Glenn International Airport in Columbus, Ohio, but crashed in Little Rock, Arkansas for unknown reasons. The suspected cause of the crash was a line of thunderstorms moving through the Little Rock area, but the official cause has not been released. The National Transportation Safety Board has started documenting the crash site and the plane wreckage, and plan to release their preliminary report in about 2 weeks.
Do you believe in coincidences? Or maybe it's not so much a coincidence than it was fated that 2 brothers would die 1 year apart under similar circumstances on the same date, and that in the scene of the cause of World War I was the answer to when it would come to an end.
Do you believe in coincidences? In 1975, a young boy of 17 lost his life in a tragic accident while riding his moped. Shockingly, this accident occurred exactly 1 year after when his 17-year-old brother met the same fate, riding the same moped, in the same intersection, at the hands of the same taxi driver, carrying the same passenger. The devastating story of Eskin and Neville, the twin brothers, is an unbelievable tale of coincidence. The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in his car triggered the onset of World War I. Notably, the license plate number of the car he was traveling in was a 11-11-18. Interestingly, November 11, 1918 was the exact date on which World War I came to an end. Now let me ask you again.
No one knows when danger is really lurking, but thankfully for this man, he manages to know danger was at a close distance and gets out of it unscathed.
Terrifying close calls with dangerous animals. This video from 2022 shows a man with his dog on a mountain when the dog notices something coming towards them from the distance. The man realizes that the thing coming towards them is a large grizzly bear and he begins to back away. The grizzly bear starts climbing up the mountain coming for them. The man throws a large rock towards the bear and it luckily scared it off. Both the man and the dog were extremely lucky in this situation as it's unpredictable what the bear might have done to them.
Do ghosts really exist? Well, this Argentinian man has a lot to say about all the ways you can take care of a ghost patient. Only at the time, he is not aware that this patient is a ghost.
This is a true horrifying story. Part 73. This story took place in Argentina in 2022. This is by far the creepiest incident that I have ever seen caught on tape. There's a security guard in a hospital working on a late night shift. The hospital was very quiet. No patients were coming in around that time. At 3 a.m. sharp, the automatic doors open up front as the security guard was sitting down. He gets up and greets the patient that came in. He grabs the registration papers from his desk and he walks up towards the patient to have them fill out the papers. As the security guard fills out the paper for the patient, he goes and he grabs a wheelchair. It seemed like the patient was in pain or maybe not able to walk. And then as the patient sits down on the chair, he pushes the patient towards the examination rooms. But you see, there's a plot twist to all of this. There was no patient. The security guard was talking to someone that was not visible on camera. This is the CCTV footage of what happened in the hospital in Argentina. Look at the doors sliding open. He clearly sees someone before he gets up. He asks them for the information or the reason for their visit. He proceeds to tell them to come inside. And then he walks and grabs the wheelchair for them. What kind of being is this man speaking to? Could this possibly be a jinn? What do you guys think?
"911 dispatchers are surely trained for all sorts of distress emergency calls, but nothing could have prepared the dispatcher that picked this disturbing call for what she was about to hear."
This is the most disturbing 911 call ever. On the left is Matt Ponerico, and on the right is his son Jack. Jack is just 5 years old, and he was beat to death with a bat by his father on the left. What I'm about to show you is the call that Matt made to 911 right after he murdered his own 5-year-old son with a baseball bat.
911, what's the address to your emergency? Oh, okay, and the phone number you're calling from with area code, please? And what's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
I just killed my son.
What do you mean you just killed your son?
I'm hearing voices.
Oh, okay. How old's your son?
6.
Where's your son now?
He's dead.
Dead where?
In the living room.
When we think of dinosaurs, we think of fossils and things that are extinct. But why does this footage that was seen in China say otherwise? A live dinosaur? Is this a hoax or what?
China just found an island with dinosaurs on it. Okay, so apparently China found new land that is populated by dinosaur-like species that are 13 feet tall. A woman who was getting her nails done in China when breaking news came on in the salon. She didn't know what they were saying, so she pulled out Google Translator and discovered something disturbing. She said the Chinese said they discovered uncharted land that is completely covered in dinosaurs. They also said the information will not be available in the USA, and you literally can't find any sources on it. This is very new news, and it's only been out for a couple of days. And there's hundreds of thousands of these creatures. There's a video going around that shows a dinosaur. So let me know what you think about all of this.
Do you really think dinosaurs exist? What about Wendigos? Why do they look similar to humans? Let us know in the comment section. Also, let's know which of these discoveries you found too unrealistic to be true. If you enjoyed this video, you can give it a like and share with your friends.